Go ahead and find your seats. You may be seated. Just want to give two announcements that are pertinent to the Bible study hour. First of all, seniors and the Victory Bible Study class, your Christmas party is this Saturday. So there's the information sheet in the lobby, also a sign-up sheet. And Brother Chuck specifically asked that if you plan on attending, please sign up today so that they can make sure they have enough of the main dish for whoever may come. But sign up in the lobby that you will be there. I believe it's also the number in your party. And then also plan to bring a side dish or dessert. The main dish is provided. It is Saturday, December 16th at 5:30 p.m. in the fellowship hall just up the hill. So if you have any questions, find the Murrays or find the sheet and make sure you sign up. This is open to anybody 65 years and older, any members of the Victory Bible class, plus invite a friend, a neighbor, or coworker, and have them come with you. And then finally, the Mosaic class. It's that time of year for Christmas parties. We had two last night, but Mosaic is Friday night at 6 p.m. It is at the kids' house in Xenia, and the kids, like Mark and Miranda, not kids. But I wanted to make sure because it's not just Mosaic in here, so we wanted to clarify that. But plan to bring a dessert or a drink, and then please RSVP with Brother Jordan or Miss Lori Kaczynski, and let them know as soon as possible that if you will be able to make it 6 p.m. Friday night, December 15th. Those are the only two announcements. If you have any more questions about those specific parties, get in touch with your Bible study leader or the teacher there, and they'd be more than happy to give you more information. Thank you.
It's our privilege this morning to have our missionaries we've been partnered with for many years, Barry and Denise Williams, and we're thankful to have them here. Many years in Scotland, now the Lord's transitioned them to a new ministry. I'm going to have him tell you more about that in the 9:30 hour, and so he's going to go through a presentation here in the 9:30 hour, and then if we have time at the end, as always, we'll try to allow some question and answer, so have your mind churning about that. But I'm just thankful to see faithful men and women, not only here in our church, but then abroad in the family of God, and how God uses us and calls us to places and guides us and directs us for the gospel's sake. And so I'm just very thankful for them and their fellowship and their friendship. And so it's our privilege to have Brother Barry with us this morning and his wife. And so, Brother Barry, if you wouldn't mind coming right ahead.
Thanks so much. Thank you, sir. It's a privilege to be back this morning, and thank you so much, Pastor, for inviting us back. I tell you what, we needed to thank you right off the bat. We came into the hotel last night, and there was a beautiful basket from your church. And I just want to tell you, that is the first time in 22 years that any church has put a basket in our hotel room. And we just wanted to thank you. That was a very classy act of you guys, and we thank you so much for that. And we appreciate your kindness, everything you guys have done for us really in the last 22 years. And thank you again for all your prayers and faithful support. Let me explain to you a little bit about what's going on in our life right now. About a year ago, we came back to the States because we lost about $1,000 of monthly support while we were on the mission field in Scotland. While we were there, we were able to start 3 churches, and we were planning to start our 4th, and then our support began to drop significant. Well, anyway, it dropped, okay? We came back to raise that money, and we just weren't able to do it. And we were just trying to figure out a very difficult year for us. And just speaking with my pastor, he thought perhaps God was taking us another direction. And so what has happened, we are now working with our mission board. We are traveling around almost every weekend explaining missions to churches, and also we are trying to raise money for not only our mission board but special projects as well. I would like to say the following just so that you can understand the situation of our churches today here in America. I'm not the first missionary to come home off the field within the last 5 years. I'm one of many, actually. We are really struggling out there as a Baptist denomination, just to be honest. And most of the churches that I was in 20 years ago used to run 250, 350 people, and now most of them are way under 100 people. barely paying their bills, barely staying open, and they just have dropped their missions programs or whatever. 20 years ago, while they were running that many people, they had 40, 50 missionaries, and today they just can't do that. And so missions is really struggling, and it has had a trickle-down effect not only on our missionaries, but on our missionary boards as well. And let me explain this a little bit to you. Without a shadow of a doubt, there will be mission boards that will go under. They will go under. And when that does happen, all those missionaries will have to come off the field and find other mission boards to go out under. And so we are in serious trouble. I'm just going to be honest with you. As we travel around, if you could travel around with me every weekend, you would see that. A lot of times we're kind of sheltered in our little home church, and we just see what's around us. But if you could travel around with me every weekend, you would see that we are way down in numbers. We're not accomplishing what we used to accomplish, and it is affecting everything, not only our home churches, but is affecting missionaries and mission works around the world. And I want you to also think about when these missionaries do have to come off the field, that is going to affect not only their churches that they have planted in their country, but it's also going to affect the orphanages that they have. It's going to affect the Christian schools that they have and all the other ministries that they have. And so we are at a time where we are going to have to step up and again help out our mission boards and help out our missionaries and make sure that they stay on the field. And again, I ask you, pray for me as I travel around. I have a great responsibility, and our mission board has 100, and I believe it's 32 missionaries, and so it is my goal to keep those gentlemen on the field. My wife and I were devastated when we could not go back to Scotland, just literally gutted, and I can share that with you since you're one of our supporting churches. It was just, I can't even begin to tell you. We thought we would live there the rest of our life and start churches and continue the ministry over there. But we were devastated. And so we want to try to keep all the other missionaries on the field and so that they do not have to come home for financial reasons. So pray for us. Pray for us as we try to raise money for the mission board and also some other ministries that we are affiliated with. If we could go ahead and show you some of these slides here. Again, that is me. That's if you go back one, that is me. My name is Barry, and my wife Denise is with me this morning. And I wanted to show you our kids when they were here. I think they were probably 4, 6, and 8. So a lot's changed. Okay, that's our daughter Anna, and that is our 2 grandchildren, and the little girl there, Kate, and the little boy there is Matthew. Kate, she's Grandpa's little girl, and she just takes all my money. I don't know what else to say about that. I just hand over my wallet to her and say, honey, you can have whatever you want. And she's Grandpa's little girl. That's my daughter's husband, Gabe, and they are planning, they were part of a church plant for the last 2 years and done extremely well. Church is running close to 200 people now, and they are going to go out and start another church in an area called Oberlin, Ohio. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's up near us, not too far from us. And so pray for them. They are going to start that, I believe, sometime in the summer. If you go ahead and go to the next one. This is our son, Ben, and his wife, Kara. They are in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and they are going to be part of a church plant. It'll start on Easter Sunday, if you could be in prayer for them. They are, again, where they're going to go is basically in between where Penn State is and where Harrisburg is. So pray for them as they do that. And last but not least is our son, Jared, and that is his wife, Laura. They still live in Scotland. Laura got saved in one of our churches over there. She's a Scottish girl. And it's kind of hard to fathom sometimes. You know, this this little girl that you see come to Christ and you baptize her, and then all of a sudden she marries your son. And that was kind of neat. And anyway, she is a nurse, a children's nurse at the largest hospital in Scotland. And our son works in, I think it's the 5th largest internet company in the world. And they lead the music in their church and also work with the children. So pray for them as they are there in Scotland. We'll go ahead to the next one then. Let me share with you a little bit about BEMA. Again, it's our mission board. It's in Columbus, Ohio. They have 132 missionaries in 24 countries around the world. And most of BEMA's missionaries are national pastors. And let me explain that. When an American missionary goes to field, just like I went into Scotland, we had a young man that surrendered for the ministry. He'd be considered a national pastor. And so I asked some of my churches back here if they would help support, his name was Mark, support Mark. And so I had some of our churches do so. And anyway, that's what BEMA supports, mostly national pastors. And the reason why they do that is for any reason Americans have to leave a country, the national pastor is still there. And so BEMA is one of the few mission boards that has mostly national pastors. Also, BEMA does not take a percentage of a missionary support. Basically, how most mission boards are run, they take 15 to 20% of a missionary support and use that money to support the mission office. BEMA does not do that. Basically, as I put down here on the bottom, the office is funded by donations from people just like you. And again, we appreciate all the help. We appreciate all the churches that help out and the individuals as well that help keep the mission board running on a daily basis. Go ahead to the next one. Why a mission board? I'm going to explain a little bit to you this morning. There are some countries in the world where you cannot gain entrance without a mission board that has been approved by the country's government. There are a lot of countries, for instance in Africa, that will not allow you to enter the country unless you come in under one of the mission boards that are approved by that country. And so you cannot just get up and say, I'm going to go to this country without a mission board. A lot of times that just can't happen. There are some independent missionaries that can do that, depending on what countries that they are going to, but for the most part, you cannot just go into a country. And so, again, that's why most people have a mission board. If you go on to the next one, they write letters on your behalf for your visa. Let me explain some of this. To get into Scotland right now, and I'll explain this a little bit as well, you have to have proof that you are receiving $6,000 for 3 consecutive months. The cost of living in Scotland is just crazy. They are on the British pound over there. Everything is at least double than what you would pay here in the United States. Most people just never comprehend that. We've had mission groups come over to Scotland, and they run out of money. I try to explain it to them. This is how expensive this country is. I mean, you're going to need X amount of dollars, and they never bring enough money. There have been times my wife and I have been stuck paying for hotel rooms. We've had to pay for vans that they travel around in. They just don't understand how expensive it is to live in Scotland. So the UK government, what they have done, they have set up guidelines in order to get into the country, and one of them is you have to have proof you're receiving $6,000 for 3 consecutive months. And what your mission board has to do before you even get a visa, they go to the government and say, yes, this individual has this amount of money coming in on a monthly basis. Now, the reason why they do that, the UK government spends over $500,000 a year sending missionaries back home. What a great testimony that is, isn't it? People that completely run out of money and they have no way to get home, they pay their airlines to ship these missionaries back to the countries that they came from. And so this is why they have set up these guidelines, which you can understand. Next of all, most you must have an emergency fund of $3,000 now. And so again, the mission board has to write to the UK government explaining that you have the $3,000 set aside in case of emergency. And also you must pay for your health care now in Scotland. As you know, Scotland has national health care. It is not free, by the way. That's why I pay almost $10 a gallon for gasoline in Scotland to help pay for the health care. And so you have to pay for your own health insurance now, and so you have to have proof of that. And again, once you prove that to the mission board, they can write a letter again, and then you can obtain your visa. Also, mission board helps prove who you are to even get a bank account. You have to have proof of who you are, and your mission board will write a letter on your behalf saying who you are, why you're in the country, and so forth. And again, with money laundering, especially in Europe and places like that, banks are very hesitant to start bank accounts. In fact, our children lived in Scotland for, it was about 14 years before we got them some bank accounts, and it was like pulling teeth. I mean, it just isn't you go down here and open up a bank account. It isn't like that anymore, especially in Europe. And so your mission board, what they do, they help write letters and help support you in getting a bank account, to get loans for your housing or car. Again, if you buy a house, you have to have proof that you have the money and so forth. Mission board writes letters for that. To purchase our church building in Scotland. Again, our mission board had to say, yes, they have enough money to pay for the down payment. And so the mission board had to write our bank in order for us to get approved to purchase our church building. And I'm here to tell you, you guys helped us with that 20-some years ago to purchase our church building. They just paid it off. So thank you guys for that. So our first church has their church building paid for. Also to purchase buildings for orphanages and Christian schools and things along that line. Again, you get the idea. The mission board writes a letter and says, hey, listen, they have the funds to pay for this. And to purchase land for camps and other things as well. And so this is why you have to have a mission board. This is why it is so important. This is why it is important for us to make sure that these mission boards stay afloat, okay? Because if they don't, you can see what a struggle it is going to be for the missionaries who are on the field and why a lot of them are going to have to come back home. So they do more than just take in money and send it to you on a monthly basis. They do much, much more. Okay, if you go to the next one. My purpose, what am I doing now? Number one there, help raise funds for our mission office, again, to keep it afloat. It takes about $6,000 a month to run our missions office. That includes salaries, utilities. Postage alone is $1,000 a month for all the money that comes in. They send out receipts and send out other forms and envelopes. And again, the postage alone is $1,000, maintenance, so forth, utilities. Number two, to keep other missionaries on the field. That's why Denise and I are doing what we are doing now. Also to raise mission awareness in churches. A lot of people do not understand how mission works, or how it functions. And so that's what I normally do during this hour and what I'm doing with you this morning. Number four, I speak in Christian colleges and high schools. Christian schools that I go to, I talk about missions and so forth, and also Christian schools, colleges. Number five, raise funds for mission projects. That's what I do as well. I'll give you some examples of those if you go on to the next one. This is the Calvin Hauser family. They are in the Philippines right now. Calvin lives not too far from where we live. We live up in Mansfield. Calvin's wife, Mindy, there, her father is a pastor in the Mansfield area. And they are in the Philippines right now. And they are trying to raise, if you turn it to the next one, $100,000. If you go on to the next one for me, for this church building that is in Manila. They're trying to raise $100,000. Now, they have, I believe, $68,000 raised, and they need to raise the last $32,000 here by the end of the year. And so we are asking churches to prayerfully consider helping out the housers so that they can purchase this building. It is a beautiful building. Our president of BEMA was there about 2 months ago. And so if you would pray that this money comes in, we'd greatly appreciate it. And if you can help out towards this as well, I tell you what, it's just a beautiful building, and I really need to make sure that this family gets that church. If you go on to the next one, this gentleman on the left-hand side, let me share his story with you. His name is Saint Dupree. He is in Haiti. He lives about 8 hours from Port-au-Prince. He lives in the middle of nowhere, absolutely in the middle of nowhere. And back in 2012, they had an earthquake there in his area, and it knocked off the roof, and you can see pictures of the roof of one of their school buildings. Now, does anybody here teach school or in education? Listen to this. This man they've had a Christian school meet in a building without a roof for the last 5 years. Could you imagine teaching a class without a roof? I mean, just think about that for a moment. No roof on the school building, none. And he is Saint, does not speak English hardly at all. We just had a BEMA conference for BEMA missionaries here in Columbus, Ohio, back in October, and I met Saint there, and he came up to me. He broke in English, and it hardly English at all, okay? But he had tears streaming down his eyes because, you see, he had a need that is so great, okay? And you can understand this need. You know, I mean, I can't even fathom this. You know, I taught school for 6 years, not having a roof in your classroom. And so I got another Haitian missionary to come over, and he interpreted for me. This man, if you can fathom this, he pastors 7 churches, has an orphanage, and has this Christian school. He makes $40 a month. That's his support. And so I'm trying to raise his monthly support, get it around. They need about $450 per month for support. And if you could help me with that, I would appreciate it. But I have all the money raised for that roof except for $2,000, I believe it's $250. And I'd like to get that raised here by the end of the year as well. Another great need. And if you could help me do that, what I'm going to do, as soon as I get the money for this roof, I'm going to send the money down to him. It's going to get completed, and I'm going to fly down there and take pictures of it when it's finally completed and send it back to all the churches that helped out. You know, this man, he can't call to pastors here in the States. He can't speak English. You understand? And so he can't make a phone call back here and say, hey, pastor, can you help me with my roof? He can't do that. He can't call and get meetings. He can't stand up here and preach. He doesn't speak English. And we have a lot of BEMA missionaries that are like that. And so what I'm doing, I'm trying to be the middle guy and trying to help these guys get the money so that they don't have to come back here. And you know, really what good is it for them to come back here if they can't present their need? And so I'm trying to help individuals out like Il Saint. There's other mission projects as well. Those two are the ones that I really need help with right now. And please, if you just pray for me concerning that, I'd greatly, again, appreciate it. Giving to BEMA, again, just right down the road, 4744 Winchester Pike, Columbus, Ohio. And again, you can find BEMA at www.bemamissions.org, and you can hit the donate button so we're online. And so there's a couple of different ways to give. We do need you in the memo section or someplace, if you're just sending in a gift into BEMA, just write down who the mission gift is for. That's so vitally important. Also, I'm trying to raise money, and I've just started what is called the Matthew 28 Project, again, to help missionaries like Il Saint. And it is my prayer to raise $500,000 next year for missions and mission projects. And again, I need your prayers concerning that. And what I do, the money that comes in every month, I sit down with the financial secretary and whoever needs the money the most for like building projects, or for instance in the case of Il Saint here, we help them out. In the past, I've had people hand me checks for $35,000 and say, I want you to give this to missions how you see fit. And so that is what I am doing. I'm making sure that the monies that are given go directly to these missionaries and to the projects that they are designated for. My wife and I, we're going to be traveling around the world, making sure that this money gets spent properly. And so, again, pray for the Matthew 28 project, if you would do that for me. And so you can see, I got my hands full, and this is the path, the direction that God has us right now. And so pray for me as I go around to churches that, again, I can explain this to the best of my ability, and God will do some great things. But I just feel that I have an awesome task in front of me. And if you could just pray for me concerning this, I would appreciate it. And showing all this to you guys this morning perhaps gives you a greater way to pray for me, okay? And again, trust me, I appreciate all those prayers, okay? Is there any questions at all at this time about any of this, what I'm doing or what's taking place? I'm a former school teacher, so I do expect class participation. Oh, we got a microphone as well. I tell you what, good deal. Oh, don't be bashful. It's okay. Yes, ma'am. Anybody catch that? Okay.
Go ahead and wait for the microphone. That way everybody will be able to hear the question.
Do you collect monies from the parishioners where the churches are that the missionaries go to? I mean, where they're sent.
I didn't quite.
Are you asking, sister, if the churches that the missionaries have started, if they take up offerings as well?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I
Yes.
imagine as much.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yes, very good question.
Maybe while you're thinking, and put your hand up high so they can get the microphone to you. Let me ask you, Brother Barry. Obviously, you ran through that, and again, I think sometimes, because we as people living in Dayton, Ohio, and coming to church here, we see a missions board, and we just maybe because we've never had to go through it, don't understand or appreciate fully everything. I know you ran through that, but just help us understand, and maybe if you could off the cuff, how many fields are you aware of, just as a ballpark number, that you just can't get in if you don't have some kind of organizational support?
I'm not positive about that number, but I know the vast majority in Africa you just can't get in. There are other Eastern European countries where the Russian government existed at one time that you can't get into a lot of those countries, and of course, we know a lot of the Muslim countries you can't get in at all. So, yeah, there's a lot of countries today that are exactly like that, yes.
So BIMA ends up being, for lack of a better way to say it, an assistance or a come alongside and a helpful go-between that's necessary in interacting with these governments and helping our missionaries know what to do for this, that, and the other, rather than be dropped down. And even a church like ours wouldn't have the capacity, perhaps, to utilize that unless we had dedicated volunteer staff who knew even how to interact with those governments. Yeah,
absolutely. We have two ladies that work in our mission board, and the one lady has worked in there for 37 years, and the other one, I think, was for 27 years. And so that's a lot of knowledge there, how to work in countries and how to make sure you can get into a country. For instance, when we went to Scotland, they told us this is how much support you need. See, they already know all this, and it's so very helpful that those ladies know so much to get you into a country, and they are familiarized with some of the governments and so forth and what it takes to get into the country ahead of time. to get your visas. And so that's a tremendous help. It really is, yeah.
Questions? Somebody have one? Let's run the microphone there and get that to Brother Keith.
Well, he's going to lose some weight running around like that. Yeah.
I'm just curious how your church or churches are doing in Scotland with you guys having come off to this new endeavor, and how are they responding to that, and what's happening with them?
Our churches are doing fine, doing really well. Like I said, we had just really kind of finished our third church, and we were getting ready to start the fourth church. So we weren't going back to the third church. They were already doing well, and they didn't need me any longer. And so we had a pastor in place there, and they are doing extremely well. We are going back there next month, actually a month today, I think. We're going back. I'll be preaching in a church and just seeing all the people, but they're doing extremely well. Yeah. We've set them up to the best of our ability. Before I leave a church, we spent about close to, it would be American dollars, probably close to $100,000 on the building, the church building itself. What I always did, I made sure that if something happened, they would have enough money and always be fine, no matter where I was at. And so the last church, we improved the building by about $100,000. We shored up all the windows and did a lot of different things along those lines. And so, when the building itself, they're not going to need any help with that for a while. It's in really good shape. And you know how a building is. You got a church, but there's always something that needs done. And so the major projects, before I left, I took care of them. And I just made sure that they're going to be fine. If perhaps I couldn't come back, I didn't envision me not coming back, but we took good care of them. They're doing fine. Anybody else at all? Boy, a quiet bunch today. Huh?
If you have other questions for Brother Barry,
Yeah.
Do we have one?
Yes. 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 A lot of the countries, in fact, our country, Scotland, you wouldn't think it, but there's just a lot of unemployment in the world, and the church people just, it broke your heart sometimes. They gave, and you knew they didn't have the money. You know what I'm saying? They gave to projects and things. The church people sacrifice an awful lot. They just perhaps can't raise all the money themselves, and they need help with some of these projects to take care of that. The people in Haiti, unemployment down there is just crazy, and these people are making, $1 a day, and, they can't afford to put on a $12,000 roof or whatever the case is. They just can't afford it. And so I think it is our responsibility to try to help some of these people out, and those that have needs to take care of it. And it breaks my heart that a guy has taught school for 5 years without a roof. I mean, that shouldn't happen. It just can't happen. And so, again, I'd like to take care of all these projects to the best of my ability. And, again, pray for me as I try to see that accomplished, okay?
It'd be similar, what your wife and you were just
Yeah.
speaking about. It'd be very similar, in my mind, to what took place with the Jerusalem saints and the Gentile
Oh, sure.
saints with the
Yes.
Pauline offering,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Jerusalem was the sending agent,
Absolutely.
and then, because of persecution and dispersion, they needed help because of the poverty
Yeah,
there.
yeah, absolutely.
And then what did Paul do? Paul went to those who had the fluency and the funding, and what did he do? They took up an offering as a show of their love for the gospel to go forward there at Jerusalem.
absolutely.
And he took that back so the gospel could keep thriving there. And so
Yes.
it sounds to me
same
the
thing.
same thing. And here in America, no matter how poor we may think we are, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, you don't know, Pastor, I am strapped. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it, perhaps. But for the rest of the world, we are so affluent. And I don't say that to try to guilt trip us or put us into a poverty theology, but I would say this. We have a window of stewardship here. And it's not wrong to have a nice house. I'm glad for you if you do. It's not wrong to have a nice car or retire. I'm glad for all that. But let's never forget, we have this opportunity in the gospel from teenagers all the way on up. Even, well, I'm retired and on Social Security. I'm on fixed income. Everyone's on fixed income, right? Yeah. And so we can be a part of items like this, like this brother in Haiti. Why they don't have that? Well, their people should give more.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
$1 a day ain't gonna get that roof on there, or it was not gonna allow him to be able to pastor effectively all the different churches there. And so those are where we have those opportunities as affluent individuals in a very free country to use those funds for eternal gospel endeavors. And so I appreciate you, Brother Barry. If you have other questions for he or his wife, they'll be at their table in between the services now and then after the 10:30 services. Well, I get to encourage you. These are people that we have been partnered with for 20 plus years, faithful and fruitful. And there are people in Scotland, like his own daughter-in-law, that not only did they get to do the groundwork, but we got to be a part of that in giving. If you've been giving to missions for 20 years, you have a part there, and thank the Lord for that. So I appreciate you and your
thank you
wife
so
so
much,
much. And I encourage you, get around there, say hi to them, ask them any questions you have. You are dismissed. We'll see you back here in about 15 minutes.